All right, so when I'm not making YouTube videos, I'm watching them, and right now we got this hurricane moving on in to Florida, and I was looking at this video about this, and here we have, you can see the still of it here. We got Joe Biden sitting there in the recording studio, and then we got this other person over here. I don't know who that is. And they're sitting there in this fake White House looking deal. You know, this looks so stupid. You know, I can't help but think, I mean, what kind of optics is this? Why is the president of the United States sitting in this fake little studio looking thing off to the side of the press room and not in the actual White House, which the set there is supposed to clearly emulate? Like, they made the set to look like it's the White House, kind of. And there's Joe Biden, and it looks like an SNL skit. That's what it looks like. It's not a good look at all, really. It's terrible. I mean, my goodness. Anyway, so what is the deal? What is the deal with this storm? You know, we had another storm come through. What was it? Helene comes through, does a bunch of damage, and now the media is in the mood to think about storms. And now there's another storm getting ready to come into Florida, and it seems to be all trumped up that it's going to be the worst thing ever. Maybe it will. I don't know. I've been thinking about it, though, and it's interesting how whenever you have something happen that's a big event, then you wind up with a flurry of follow-up events. It's kind of interesting how this works, because, you know, like, okay, let's say that there's a school shooting, then suddenly there's a bunch more school shootings. There's train derailments. I remember that was a thing. And then suddenly there's just tons of train derailments all over the place all the time. And, you know, I don't know why this is exactly, but I think part of it, though, is just media focus. That's really all it is. It's that when you have something happen that's a big enough deal that people are thinking about that particular thing, then people are looking for more content that's basically in the same grain. It's like, if I made a video about something and everybody liked it, then would I be more likely to say, well, could I make more content that's like that one video that worked out well, right? And it's the same thing with real media companies and social media. It's the same everywhere. People just kind of, they make content, and then they look to see, how does it go over? Is it well received? Are people eating it up? And if they are, then there's this overwhelming urge to produce more content. And sometimes that content gets produced at the expense of the truth, and it contributes to this overall feeling that everything's kind of fake. So, like, take this storm coming in. Is the storm coming in going to be the worst storm ever? I don't know. It might be a bad storm. I'm not there. But is it possible that the media coverage is more invested in this because we just finished a major news cycle covering a previous significant storm event? And the answer is probably yes. Like, I was watching a video where somebody was saying on a news show, they were saying, well, the storm was downgraded to category 4 from a category 5, something like that. But it's still a very, very serious storm, they were saying. And it almost sounded like the attitude the vibe I was getting was that the reporters were excited that there was a big storm coming and almost disappointed by the possible news that it wasn't going to be quite as bad as they thought it was going to be. If the storm is downgraded, then people are going to watch a little bit less, right? So even if the news isn't as bad as you thought it was going to be, you still have to act like it's the end of the world. And that desire to seek attention in the news cycle has really turned into a situation where it doesn't feel like you can give the news too much credibility, because it feels like entertainment. Not to say there's anything wrong with being entertained by the news. I do watch the news for entertainment, just like I do all sorts of other things for entertainment. But maybe what's disingenuous is that people are doing things for views. People are doing things for entertainment. And they're portraying it as something that is authentic. Something that is a service with the intention to help other people. And that's really where it becomes, I guess, a conflict of interest of sorts. And I think we see this hypocrisy in a lot of different things in the world. We see it in the corporate world. Maybe somebody in a boardroom says, well, let's do something that's going to save the company money. Something that's going to deliver value to shareholders. Something that's going to help us deliver the results that we need to be successful as a business. But let's package that as something which is going to be really good for the employees. Even if it's not really very good for the employees, the company will still figure out a way to deliver the message that we're doing this for you. We're trying to make your life better, and it's going to be better than ever before, and you should be excited about it. And so you get people pumping for something, and then a while later, everyone's kind of like, well, wait a second. I don't know that that was really that great for me, you know? It's like if you gave everybody a little bit of a pay raise and you got them all to be excited, and then you cut your staff by 30%, and now people are like, yeah, I appreciate that 10% raise, but I don't like it now that I have to do the job of two people. And it's disingenuous when you say that you're doing something because you're trying to invest in people, when you're actually trying to invest in yourself. And there's a lot of people that are trying to cover their ass, and they're really saying that they're out to serve other people. And folks can see through that. That's the thing. Like, it's not that hard to tell when people's motives are not legit. And I think sometimes we deceive ourselves, and then we start to get frustrated when the world feels like maybe it's stacked against us. And probably it's a good idea to stop watching some of this stuff, you know? I think there's so much noise out there, so much crazy stuff. Everybody's trying to create their own version of clickbait, and it gets old after a while. Sometimes it's nice just to get the truth exactly as it is. Like, I saw this YouTuber, and he says he makes this video. He's like a prepper economy business kind of a guy. Anyway, he makes videos, and he says, I made a video a while ago. Basically, it's about something that's super secret, end of the world, conspiracy theorist kind of a thing. And, you know, the algorithm will censor me. And I can't say what I have to say, and it's going to change your life, and it's, you know, a world-changing thing, you know. And I can't say it on here because YouTube will censor me or you know, or something like that, throttle me. And then he says, well, so what you got to do is you got to subscribe to my newsletter, and then you can find out the real truth about what's going on in the world there, and I will, you know, send it to your email. Like, okay, so you are really, at the end of the day, you're trying to get more people to sign up for your newsletter and support you in other ways. Like, that's what it is. It's not really about anybody being throttled or demonetized or anything like that, probably. It's really just you're trying to find a creative way to get people to FOMO into buying what you're trying to sell. So, how do we live a real kind of a life in a fake kind of a world? That's the question. I think it's got easier, hasn't it? It's got easier to create kind of fake content, right? I think about before Zoom and stuff, it wasn't really so easy to create presentations that looked good but didn't have any substance behind them. It wasn't so easy to solve a problem with a conference call instead of just rolling up your sleeves, getting out there and doing something that actually makes a difference. It's so easy to put up a Zoom background that looks good and, you know, actually conceal the fact that you're not really delivering value. I'm reminded of a story from Brer Rabbit. I think it was, I don't know if that was a series. I think it was a series of short stories, and I think it was all surrounding the life and times of a rabbit named Brer Rabbit. In any case, Brer Rabbit had these animal friends, and he wanted to get their house. All the animal friends, they got together and they said, let's build ourselves a nice house. And so they went out there and they built a house. And then Brer Rabbit showed up and he started measuring and marking and walking around with a clipboard and looking busy. And by the time he was done, he convinced the animals that the house belonged to him because he'd been there the whole time working hard. And the reality is he'd been there the whole time doing nothing. But he was a smooth talker, and he was good at making it look like he was working and doing important things. And so he kicked these animal friends of his out of the house that they'd built. And I thought that was kind of interesting. It's kind of how it is, isn't it, though? There's a lot of people who are, you know, instead of being good at delivering actual results, they're good at talking a good talk. They're good at saying things that make people get on board. I remember when I was starting off working for Walmart, I had this ability to know what words to use and what verbiage to put into a presentation. And, you know, I had people come to me of all ranks, all different people would often come to me and say, you know, help me to put together this PowerPoint, or help me to put together something in Excel, or help me to write up a proposition for something. And that was something that really kind of just came natural to me. Writing was something that was very easy to me. And I learned quickly that there were certain words that were very useful words to use. And they were, you know, just the corporate catchphrases and the politically correct lingo that just sounds good and makes great material for something that's going into a corporate presentation. And I got good at writing a lot of that stuff and using that verbiage, and I'm sure that helped benefit my career as time went on. But I also think that as time went on, I became more disenfranchised with that too, because you start to realize every initiative comes with some kind of lingo, some kind of a new catchphrase that's supposed to be used as a rallying cry to get everybody on board, to make people excited about a bunch of nothing. And it just gets old. It gets old after a while because you realize, you know, the words might change, but I've seen the entire tale many times before. And what really matters the most is people telling the truth. That's really what matters the most. That's the commodity that's the most valuable thing in the world today. Somebody who dares to tell the truth and say, all right, here's how it is. Here's the truth. It's not over embellished. It's not trumped up. It's not made more grand or less grand or shoved under the rug because it's not convenient to talk about, or left as an omission because we don't want to ruffle feathers. It's just people, you know, telling the truth, saying it like it is, you know. And I know there's a lot of fake individual people, but I'll tell you, that's one reason why I like YouTube, and I probably watch it more than mainstream news, and I watch content creators more than I watch television shows or movies these days, because it just feels like when you have an individual person producing content, they are more authentic potentially than someone who's cherry-graphing everything that they're saying, running it through a filter to make sure it's politically correct, and then submitting it to the viewership as if they're supposed to be impressed. I hate that about HR. Like, HR is the art of telling people that you have an open door and they can come to you if they have any concerns. And then when they do, you have a creative way to make them feel like they were heard and make them feel like you gave them a resolution because you used the right verbiage, and then send them away in a manner that's going to make them essentially feel satisfied that their problem was addressed, while you don't actually have to do anything to truly address their concern. It's like alchemy. It's you know, it's taking straw and turning it into gold, or rather, it's taking straw and spinning it into something that looks like gold for just long enough to give somebody the illusion that you're going to make them rich. And then they'll go home and they'll realize that all they have is straw on the floor. And you sit there and collect a little bit more, I guess, maturing stock options because you're towing the company line. It's amazing how in a world full of fake people, it's an uncommon thing just to be honest. It's not even about being extraordinary. It's just about not being a liar. And if you're not a liar and you're willing to be transparent about things and tell people the truth as it is and not lie to them and not string them along and not act nice when you're looking at them and then find ways to undermine them when they aren't there. Like if you can just, I guess, have good character, that is a skill. You know, I think about things like a press briefing, right? And you know, what would make a good press briefing? Well, probably if somebody told the truth, right? Like that would be a good press briefing. It's not about having the ability to use all the right words. It's about the willingness to say something meaningful and not to lie to people about things. Like that's probably, you know, the core of what would make a press briefing good. So when we talk about skills, you know, like what kind of skills does it take to be successful? It really comes down to, do you have the capacity to be honest with people? And if you do, you know, you don't have to be the best at everything necessarily. You just have to, you know, stop gaslighting people and ghosting people and finding ways to make it look like you're serving others when you're really serving yourself. And I think if we tuned out all of the things in life that are kind of fake, the things that are meant to look like they're important, but really they're not doing anything for us or anybody, I think, you know, I think we'd wind up potentially having a lot more spare time, I guess, you know. There'd just be a lot more room in our lives to focus on other things if we weren't focusing on noise that is basically pointless. That's why I think it's so important to simplify your life, you know. There's so much ridiculous stuff out there, and it seems like it's important until you turn it off, you know. You walk away from Facebook, you stop clicking on the clickbait, you pick your battles, and, you know, then you realize after a while, when you're not constantly consuming the noise that other people are putting out, then you can choose what you actually want to subscribe to. And subscribe to things that deliver value. So today we're just sailing on the raft. Sailing on the raft on a Tuesday afternoon, hanging around, checking out some of these islands in Black Desert Online that I have not yet reached. I don't know if I can sail to the land of morning light on my raft. I don't know if I want to or if I should, but I did kind of want to make it there at some point, and so I figured out how to get a raft. Like, that's something, right? There's a weasel. It's kind of cool. So anyways, life is good, but a lot of people are really kind of too full of themselves to deserve your attention. Maybe that's inconvenient news, because when you realize that people aren't worth your attention, then you wind up not giving them your attention, and then you wind up divesting of a lot of things, and then you wind up with more time, and you wind up with more space in your life, and then you have to start saying, well, what am I going to actually do with that space in my life? What am I going to do with that time that I have when I'm not chasing all of the BS. And then you start figuring out how to maybe grow something more meaningful in that space that has opened up. But the first step, I think, is to realize that in life there's a lot of silly, crazy things that people are doing that seem like they are something meaningful and something authentic until you look a little bit below the surface, and then you realize you're in a world filled with people who are just playing a game. And life is too short to be the subject of someone else's game when you can make that game your own. So find a way to enjoy your life. As always, best of luck. Thanks for watching.